Hey guys, it's story time again. It's time for another section of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling and illustrated by Jim Kay. Let's see. If you recall, last time Harry learned about how his parents really died and why he really lives with Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia. Okay, let me find my spot.
You know who killed him. And this is where the real mystery of the thing. He tried to kill you too. Wanted to make a clean job of it, I suppose. Or maybe he just liked killing by then. But he couldn't do it. Never wondered how you got that mark on your forehead. That was no ordinary cut. That's what you get when a powerful evil curse touches you. Took care of your mom and dad, and your house even. But it didn't work on you, and that's why you're famous, Harry. No one ever lived after he decided to kill him. Not one except you. And he'd killed some of the best witches and wizards of the age. The McKinnons, the Bones, the Pruitts. And you was only a baby, and you lived.
Something was very painful. Something very painful was going on in Harry's mind. As Hagrid's story came to a close, he saw again the blinding flash of green light, more clearly than he had ever remembered it before. And he remembered something else. For the first time in his life, a cold, high, cruel laugh. Hagrid was watching him sadly.
Took you from the ruined house myself on Dumbledore's orders. Brought you to this lot.
Load of tosh, said Vernon. Harry jumped. He had almost forgotten that the Dursleys were there. Uncle Vernon certainly seemed to have got back his courage. He was glaring at Hagrid and with his fist clenched. Now you listen here, boy, he snarled. I accept there's something strange about you, probably nothing a good beating wouldn't have cured. And as for all this about your parents, well, they were weirdos, no denying it, and the world's better off without them. In my opinion, I asked for all they got, getting mixed up with these wizarding types. Just what I expected. Always knew they'd come to a sticky end. But at that moment, Hagrid leapt from the sofa and drew a battered pink umbrella from inside his coat. Pointing this at Uncle Vernon like a sword, he said,
I'm warning you, Dursley. I'm warning you. One more word.
In the danger of being speared on the end of an umbrella by a bearded giant, Uncle Vernon's courage failed again. He flattened himself against the wall and fell silent.
That's better,
said Hagrid, breathing heavily and sitting back on the sofa, which this time sagged right down to the floor. Harry, meanwhile, still had questions to ask. Hundreds of them. But what happened to Sorry. I mean, you know who.
Good question, Harry. Disappeared. Vanished. Same night he tried to kill you. Makes you even more famous. That's the biggest mystery, see? He was getting more and more powerful. Why'd he go? Some say he died. Cod swallop, in my opinion. Don't know if he had enough human left in him to die. Some say he's still out there biding his time, like. But I don't believe it. People who was on his side came back to ours. Some of them came out of kind of trances. Don't reckon they could have done if he was coming back. Most of us reckon he was still out there somewhere, but lost his powers. Too weak to carry on. 'Cause something about you finished him. Harry, there was something going on that night he hadn't counted on. I don't know what it was. No one does. But something about you stumped him all right.
Hagrid looked at Harry with warmth and respect blazing in his eyes, but Harry, instead of feeling pleased and proud, felt quite sure there had been a horrible mistake. A wizard? Him? How could that be possible? He'd spent his life being clouded by Dudley and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he was really a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they tried to lock him in his cupboard? If he'd once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had always been able to kick him around like a football? Hagrid, he said quietly, I think you must have made a mistake. I don't think I can be a wizard. To his surprise, Hagrid chuckled.
Not a wizard, eh? Never made things happen when you were scared or angry?
Harry looked into the fire. Now he came to think about it, every odd thing that had ever made his aunt and uncle furious with him had happened when he, Harry, had been upset or angry. Chased by Dudley's gang, he had somehow found himself out of their reach. Dreading going to school with that ridiculous haircut, he'd managed to make it grow back. The very last time Dudley had hit him, hadn't he got his revenge without even realizing he was doing it? Hadn't he set a boa constrictor on him? Harry looked back at Hagrid, smiling, and saw that Hagrid was positively beaming at him.
See, said Hagrid, Harry Potter, not a wizard, you wait. You'll be right famous at Hogwarts.
But Uncle Vernon wasn't going to give in without a fight.
Haven't I told you he's not going? He hissed. He's going to Stonewall High, and he'll be grateful for it. I've read those letters. And he needs all sorts of rubbish spell books and wands and... If he wants to go, a great muggle like you won't stop him, growled Hagrid. Stop Lily and James Potter, son, going to Hogwarts.
Sorry, there was no picture on that page.
You're mad. His name's been down ever since he was born. He's off to the finest school of witchcraft and wizardry in the world. 7 years there, and he won't know himself. He'll be the youngest of his own sort. Be with youngsters of his own sort for a change. And he'll be under the greatest headmaster Hogwarts ever known. Albus Dumbledore.
I'm not paying for some crackpot old fool to teach him magic tricks, yelled Uncle Vernon. But he had finally gone too far. Hagrid seized his umbrella and whirled it over his head.
Never, he thundered, insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me.
He brought the umbrella swishing down through the air to point at Dudley. There was a flash of violet light, a sound like a firecracker, and a sharp squeak. And the next second, Dudley was dancing on the spot with hands clasped over his fat bottom, howling in pain. When he turned his back on them, Harry saw a curly pig's tail poking through a hole in his trousers. Uncle Vernon roared, pulling Aunt Petunia and Dudley into the next room. He cast one last terrified look at Hagrid and slammed the door behind them. Hagrid looked down at his umbrella and stroked his head.
Shouldn't have lost my temper, he said, ruefully. But it didn't work anyway. Meant to turn him into a pig. But I suppose he was so much like a pig anyway, there wasn't much left to do.
He cast a sideways look at Harry under his bushy eyebrows.
Be grateful if you didn't mention that to anyone at Hogwarts,
he said.
I'm not supposed to do magic, strictly speaking. I was allowed to do a bit to follow you and get your letters to you and stuff. One of the reasons I was so keen to take on the job.
Why aren't you supposed to do magic? Asked Harry.
Oh, well, I was at Hogwarts myself, but got expelled. To tell you the truth, in me 3rd year, they snapped me wand in half and everything, but Dumbledore let me stay on as gamekeeper. Great man, Dumbledore.
Why were you expelled?
It's getting late. We've got lots to do tomorrow,
Hagrid said loudly.
Gotta get up to town, get all your books and that.
He took off his thick black coat and threw it to Harry.
You can keep under that, he said. Don't mind if it wiggles a bit. I think I still got a couple of dormice in one of the pockets.
And there is Hagrid, using his wand to create a pigtail on Dudley's bottom. Silly, isn't it? Kind of cool, too. Ooh, now that's a cool picture. Look at that. That's a shack on the rock that they were staying at when Hagrid found him. And that's where we're going to stop for this session. Hope you enjoyed it. Be good, and always be kind.